Hello everyone, Mollusk here, and today we have a battle with me learning the rules for the Dark Eldar in 7th edition. The scenario is the Maelstrom escalation, and the deployment is with the short, from the short table edges. The Dark Eldar deployed first. I'm not really a fan of setting up the whole army at once, but I gave it a try. Sorry if you can't really see from here what the setup is, but basically the Mandrakes are in the forest, the one unit of Scourges are behind the wall, and the Raider, Venom and Ravager and other unit of Scourges are all in a clump near the wall and the Scourges. And there's another Venom by the wall. My idea with this is to try to keep the army together. I find I have a tendency to try to split things off and use a pincer style battle plan, and I've begun to wonder whether or not that's a good way of using the Dark Eldar, as I often get taken apart piecemeal. So this time I'm trying to stay together more. The Space Marines have set up using the rocks and the hills and the tower as cover, like the curs they are. The squad by the rock and the rightmost squad by the tower have missile launchers, and the tank has an autocannon and twin heavy bolters, etc., with a good field of fire towards my tanks, unfortunately. Sadly, I didn't get night fighting, and I chose to go first, but the Marines stole the initiative from me. So, Space Marines turn 1, their first tactical objective was supremacy. So the scouts in the tower held objective 1. The Marines with the missile launch to the right were going to be sitting there and shooting at the Ravagers, but they decided to move out to go claim the second objective, which was just off to their right. The Marine squad in the centre moved up to try to claim the objective on the right, but didn't run very far, unfortunately. And the other squad of 5 with the Librarian on the far left moved up as well to try to take and hold the centre of the board. The Predator's autocannon targeted the Ravager but failed to do any damage, and the missile launcher on this squad by the rock frag missiled the Scourges lurking by the Ravager and killed like 3 of them, causing them to fall back and ultimately run away off the board. So the Marines held 2 objectives, but the Dark Eldar also held 2, one by the Mandrakes in this kind of silver pond and one by this wall, so the Marines did not score their objective this turn. So, Dark Eldar turn 1. My combat drugs for my Succubus HQ was Painbringer, very nice. But my first objective was to secure objective 2. Now, objective 2 was over here by this ruin on the far left. Luckily, luckily Venoms are very, very fast, so I was able to move 12 inches in the movement phase and then move flat out with the Venom to go claim that objective with its Kalabite warriors inside. the Scourges realised that they were completely out of position and unable to do anything, so they moved. The other Scourges flew off the board, and the other skimmers moved up to try to press the advantage, I guess. So, in the shooting phase, the Ravager killed all but the missile launcher of this squad, which was very very nice, but you just wish it would go that one further. And the Raider, with its 10 Kalabite warriors, one with a splinter cannon and a disintegrator, killed 3 Space Marines from the center squad and caused them to fall back 12 inches, the cowards. Which was, again, good turn, good round of shooting for the Dark Eldar. Oh, it looks like a Venom also managed to take a model off this squad as well, so very good turn for the Dark Eldar. So Space Marines turn 2. They got Big Game Hunter and kept the supremacy from last turn, as that D3 victory points is quite handy. So yeah, they were looking to take down one of my transports. So in come the Terminators, deep striking to cause some trouble. So the plan here, I believe, was to position them in such a way that they could move in to take objective 5 or 2, should there be need, and I think their target was these Scourges, and they've in previous games just wiped them out in the shooting phase very easily, but also the potential was there to take out this Venom should the rest of the army shooting not be up to scratch. So the Librarian was using pyromancy lore with I forget what it was. It was he was using the Primaris power, which is a very heavy flamer essentially. He had the Inferno blast, which he tried to use on the Mandrakes in this turn, and either failed or to get the required warp charges, or deny the witch saved the day. And I believe he also failed to cast the Wall of Flames cover save power, not that Marines really need it. So Dark Eldar, turn 2. So we generated fear and terror. So our objective was to cause the Marines to fail a fear test or morale check, and recon. Now there was one mysterious objective 6 on the hill, and so the Mandrakes happened to be in a good position to get to that. So I've had some problems with Terminators in the past. They just will not die. I've attacked them with Incubi a couple of times, and they just mopped the floor with them. I know Incubi are supposed to be, the Dark Eldar's hardcore combat choice, but 5 Incubi and an HQ against 5 Terminators just does not work for me. So So this time we're not taking any chances. The Ravager turned around to fire through the Scourges. It doesn't matter that they'll get a 5+ cover save, they'll get an invulnerable save anyway. The venom, the other venom on objective 2 turned around to contribute its splinter cannons. The Scourges stayed where they are, so they didn't have to snap shoot with their 4 dark lances. The black venom braved the trees, didn't roll a 1 on its dangerous terrain test, luckily, and the Incubi with the Succubus disembarked with the idea that if the shooting failed to take down the Terminators, there shouldn't be that many of them left, and they could regain some honour from previous battles. You can see the Mandrakes moved up onto the hill, and then they ran to uncover objective 6, which turned out to be a grav generator, or whatever that was called. And the Raider tried to hug the hill, but actually turned out that it couldn't get a cover save, and I think continued to fire into the Marines, and I think it took out the last missile launcher Marine that was trying to claim objective 3 to the right of the tower. Hey, it worked! This is the stuff my dreams are made of. Yep, so saturate Terminators with disintegrator and splinter shots, and they will go down. It only took all but 2 units in my army to do it, but yep, very happy with that result. Right, so Space Marine turn 3. They got hold the line, which meant that they needed 3 units within 12 of their table edge, and they kept Big Game Hunter and Supremacy from the previous turns. Or did they have Big Game Hunter? Oh, I can't remember. So, the Dreadnaught deep struck in its improvised drop pod and came up right on the Ravager's 6. Yeah, I think that's probably all you can... Oh, the Librarian and his team moved up to try to make the best of the cover the hill could provide. The Marines' idea of taking the central point of the board not quite going to plan at the moment. But with that Dreadnought there, and the Raider down to 1 hull point and immobilised, they seem pretty sure to get a Big Game Hunter victory point this turn. So, in a bit of cunning, the scouts moved out of their tower to within 12 of their board edge, but also stayed within 3 of the tower to keep claiming objective 1. The tank and the remains of the other Space Marine squad that moved into the middle and got shot, retreated back, and then knew no fear and started to move to take objective 3 again. Yeah, so they got their point there. So the Librarian got off his Inferno power on the clump of the Incubi and the Scourges, and this is the armor save roll I made for my Incubi. Yeah. And that's what it looked like. Messy. Luckily, 2 of the Incubi and 1 of the Scourges made their feel no pain rolls as it came into play properly this turn. So, phew! The Incubi did get Soul Blaze on them, but it did not do any damage and faded at the end of this turn. And those ghosties there are just indicating the Soul Blaze. So here you can see that the Predator took out the Raider in a spectacular explosion that only ended up killing 2 of the 10 Kalabites inside for once, which is quite lucky on the Dark Eldar's part. And unfortunately the squad behind the rock couldn't manage to get past the Mandrakes cover saves. It's great that they seem to be usable now. So for Dark Eldar turn 3, I got Hungry for Glory, make a challenge, which I'm nowhere near anybody to make, and secure objective 1, which is the tower, which again, because I had to divert to deal with the Terminators, I'm nowhere near. So we'll see what we can do. So in the movement, the Kalabite warriors tried to run away from the Dreadnaught, but were slowed by the trees. The Ravager had more success, boosting up onto the hill and ready to take out the Warlord Librarian in this squad. The Venoms also moved up to come round. The Incubi and Succubus embarked this Venom, ready to get stuck into the Librarian squad in the next turn. The Scourges stayed where they are, thinking to get 4 Dark Lance shots into the Dreadnaught and take it out. And this is a result of the shooting phase. The Mandrakes shot their balefire and did nada. The Ravager opened up with its 3 disintegrators and killed, well, it did lots and lots of wounds. It killed the first Marine, and the Librarian just tanked the rest with his Shield Eternal, giving him a 3+ invulnerable saved, and yeah, that guy is a beast with that thing. He just soaked up those shots. The Venom actually did better, killing another Marine that was here, and putting a wound finally on the Librarian. But yeah, that Shield Eternal is good. And obviously they passed the morale check, because what's fear? And the Mandrakes charged, slipping through the shadows down the side of the hill. They lost one of their number to Overwatch, and nobody did anything in the ensuing combat. So the Space Marines' tactical objectives for this turn 4 were overwhelming firepower, which meant they had to kill a squad in combat to get a victory, in the shooting phase to get a victory point. Secure objective 5, which was by that silver dish in the woods, which was going to be pretty difficult. Secure objective 1, which they had, and supremacy still. At this point in the game, the Space Marines had 2 objectives, and the Dark Eldar had 2 objectives. Objective 5 was somewhat near the Dreadnaught, and I think the plan was to use him to knock out the units that were still holding that. So off he went on his rampage, heavy flaming those 6 warriors to death, and then storm boltering the other two pretty successful. It looked like the Space Marines were about to claim their objective, but feel no pain. 4 managed to stand back up again, and the storm bolter from the drop pod did not manage to hit anything. However, the Predator took out the Ravager, so they got their point that way. The Mandrakes managed to get 1 Space Marine down, but and the Space Marines kind of whiffed their rolls, but they held on firm. Dark Eldar, turn 4. We got the psychological warfare, where you have to force the enemy to make a morale check. We still had fear and terror, which combined with that meant that forcing the Marines to fail a morale check for once was quite important. Hungry for glory again, so I was looking to challenge the Librarian with the Succubus, and secure objective 1 was not looking very likely. The Succubus and her Incubi jumped out of the venom and prepared to assault the Librarian and the remaining Marine. Their venom, the black one, zoomed off and took out most of the Space Marine squad lurking behind the rock, and the green venom couldn't see the other one to shoot him. I got quite lucky with these venom rolls this game. So yet again the Scourges failed to take out the Dreadnaught, but reduced it to 1 hull point. I think there's quite a debate to be had regarding the equipment you give the Scourges. Now, so I've been favouring the Dark Lances, although they're expensive. They're very frightening to mech infantry and characters, as well as vehicles from the maximum 36 range that you get with the Dark Eldar. But I definitely do feel the limitation of maneuverability it gives you. So yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how we arm our Scourges with the new release. Feel the fear. The Librarian failed his fear check against the Mandrakes, and in fact the Warlord, who had the ancient terror Warlord trait. So that was excellent. 2 victory points for the Dark Eldar. And here's the combat. The Succubus challenged the Librarian, and so the Dark Eldar got another victory point, and then failed all her rolls, and didn't... Well, I think actually he passed all his saves, and so no damage was done. In turn, even on weapon skill 1, he wounded her back, and the Incubus easily finished off the remaining Marine, and the Librarian passed like 5 more saves when those hits were allocated on him as the last remaining person in combat. It was then that we remembered that the Librarian had a force weapon, and he passed his force weapon check and instant killed the Succubus. So kill the Warlord point for the Space Marines. Space Marine turn 5 objectives were secure objective 1, which they had. Recon, for that mysterious terrain piece, so they got 1 point for that. Kingslayer, which they'd done in the previous turn, and they got 2 victory points for. Secure Objective 5, which the Dreadnaught was moving in on. And again, Supremacy, which looked like if they could knock the Dark Eldar off Objective 5, then this could be a very, very good turn for them. So the Dreadnaught chased the warriors through the woods, shooting 2 down with its flamer and its storm bolters, and then just failed its charge. It was a bit difficult to take this photo, but it ran charged 7 inches, and the distance between it and the closest model actually was just over 1 inch away, so it failed its charge. So close. In the shooting phase, the Predator couldn't quite bring all its weapons to bear on the Venoms, and so didn't end up taking one out. And nobody did anything in the ongoing Librarian Incubus Mandrake combat. Seriously, that shield is amazing. So the Dark Eldar turn 5. Next, Ascendancy, D3 victory points if you control any 3 objective markers. We had Objective 2, Objective 5, and so we just needed 1 more. Death by 1,000 cuts. We needed to kill 1 model from 3 units, with 1 Space Marine left by a rock. The Librarian in combat and the Dreadnaught facing the Scourges. Oh, it was so doable. Secure Objective 2, which we held, and Secure Objective 5, which we held as just excellent luck. So here we have the Kalabite warriors bravely holding Objective 5, as the Dreadnaught, with its 1 hull point, lurched towards them out of the trees. The Scourges swooped for Objective 4, and so the Dark Eldar held 3 objectives. And the Scourges opened fire, snap shooting their heavy weapons, and got it. A lucky glancing hit on the Dreadnaught took it down. Oh no, that wasn't. Yes, I think it was glancing, but I used the explosion for effect. Yes, just everything going right so far. The time it needs to be. The Venoms took out the last remaining Space Marine, and the green Venom headed for the backboard, gunning its engines to get the line breaker. And the Librarian fell finally, and I think I used this a consolidation move appropriately. The Incubi needed to get some revenge for failing to protect their mistress from the Space Marine Librarian. Oh, and yes, this is the Venoms streaking into the backboard, and that was the end of the game. The game ended on turn 5. I believe the scores were 13 victory points to the Dark Eldar to 9 or 10 for the Space Marines. And yeah, the Dark Eldar getting 8, I think it was, victory points on that last turn just changed the game. It looked for a moment like the Space Marines would pull through. But yes, really fun game. Really loving the new Dark Eldar codex and 7th edition in general. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.